Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today to memorialize the start of the Iron Horse Reconstruction Project. I'm Craig Hulse, Director of Economic Development, and excited to bring a DJ with us this morning, in addition to bringing all of you various stakeholders together to celebrate. We have a really nice lineup of folks. Once we hear from them, please stick around as we'll have numerous photo opportunities and groundbreaking pictures. I'd like to invite up somebody who is well-versed in road construction. That's kind of why we're here today. He does that for his day job, but he's also a regional leader who has served the city for over 2 decades. Please welcome Mayor Oscar Trevino.
Man, what a great day. Isn't the weather beautiful? There was a lady just a little while ago walking a carriage around with a baby in it. That is so cool. It is good to see, and it's good to see y'all all out here to celebrate something. It's a long time coming. The Iron Horse Boulevard Reconstruction Project. Before we get started, I'd like to make some introductions. Our Mayor Pro Tem Tito Rodriguez got here. Councilwoman Rita Wright-Ojeski, Councilwoman Susie Compton, Councilman Scott Turnage, behind him Mason Orr, Blake, I saw you here earlier. Blake's in the shade. He's got a good spot. There's nothing wrong with that, Blake. And then Kelvin Dupree. Kelvin? From our city staff, City Manager Mark Heineman, our Deputy City Manager Paulette Hartman, Karen Manila, Assistant City Manager, and we got a lot of staff here. I saw Stan, I saw Caroline, Clayton. Would the staff please raise your hand to be recognized? Thank you all for being here. And then I've got to recognize the volunteers from various city committees and commissions, specifically our 2020 Capital Program Advisory Committee and our Economic Development Advisory Committee. If you're on either one of those, would you please raise your hand? Thank y'all. Russ, I see you, former councilman, Parks Board. Mark Wood, former council member. I see our Planning and Zoning Commissioner. The rest of you folks from any of the boards and commissions, would you please raise your hand? Thank y'all. Thank y'all for being here. We'd also like to acknowledge and welcome our special guest, Dan Rees, President of Prestige Ameritech. Dan, y'all have done so much for the city of North Richland Hills. Back when, years and years ago, we've dealt with y'all, and the stuff that you bring to us is fantastic. Thank you. Mike Eastland, the Executive Director of the North Central Texas Council of Government, our COG. Mike, thank you. Jorge Ayala, the Regional Director of Economic Development Administration, also known as the EDA. Where are you? George, thank you for being here. And then Stacy Webb, North Central Texas and Oklahoma representative of the EDA. Stacy, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And of course, our good friend, Commissioner Gary Fickus from Tarrant County, Precinct 3. Gary, thank you. In October of 19, the city commenced a capital program advisory committee consisting of 35 citizens. You met a few of those here just a minute ago. They met 7 times over the course of a 5-month period to consider and prioritize much needed street improvements. They looked at several factors, including existing pavement conditions, traffic volumes, maintenance records, input from citizen survey, and estimated cost. In February of 2020, among other city streets, the committee recommended the reconstruction of Iron Horse Boulevard as a top priority. We really had no idea of what would unfold in the following weeks. Just 30 days after the Capital Program Advisory Committee's recommendation, our U.S. lawmakers signed into law a stimulus bill called the CARES Act, which provided the Economic Development Administration with $1.5 billion for Economic Development Assistance Program to help communities prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus pandemic. Around the same time, Prestige Ameritech, who's the nation's largest domestic mask manufacturer, quickly found itself to be an essential business, if not the essential business. An often overlooked product became required wearing by law, exponentially increasing demand for what came out of this manufacturing facility from Prestige Ameritech and the products that they provide. Today is the culmination of events and efforts both within and beyond our control. Of course, the pandemic was beyond our control, but what we collectively accomplished thereafter is a testament to the importance of pre-existing relationships, willing partnerships, and the recognition of essential businesses. The city prides itself in being connected with our regional partners and our industry organizations. That connectedness resulted in the city's ability to quickly respond to a notice of funding opportunity from the EDA. The notice was for public works projects that not only supports the existing business base, but enables them to efficiently prepare and respond to future economic and social disruptions. After a collaborative effort on March 19, 2021, the EDA awarded $4.2 million to the city of North Richland Hills, an 80% match for the cost of reconstruction of Iron Horse Boulevard. We understand that this particular EDA CARES Act grant was the largest dollar amount requested and received in the 16-county North Central Texas region, and it's a significant savings to our local taxpayers. But for the pre-existing relationships, a willingness to partner, and the strategic importance of an essential business in Prestige Ameritech, we would not be here today. We can't thank the Economic Development Administration, our Council of Governments, and the COGS Economic Development District enough for their support, guidance, and trust in the city of North Richland Hills with these grant funds. Finally, I'd like to also recognize our design engineer, Half and Associates, a couple of individuals from Half, and our construction contractor, the Fane Group. Anybody here from the Fane Group? The Fane Group's out here working. Here they're already got barricades up, and I see them milling and removing some curb and gutter. At this time, I'd like to ask Dan Reeves, President of Prestige Ameritech, to please come up.
Thank you, Mayor and people. What an interesting story. It's pretty crazy. So I want to share a little bit about not only Prestige Ameritech, but about our partnership with North Richland Hills and some things the vast majority of you probably do not know. The original time that I came to North Richland Hills to manufacture PPE was actually in 1975 with a company called Precept, and we had the building across the what I normally call the freeway, which is through snow. It's 6625. The Precept manufactured face masks there, and we sold that company about 1976. The new owners decided they would move that away, and unfortunately the PPE left NRH. Well, about 10 years later, we had founded another company called Technol, an amazing medical company. It's probably, honestly, the most amazing medical company in the world. And in 1985, we were in Richland Hills. It sounds like the same story the mayor will remember here with Prestige, but we were in Richland Hills, and we said, gosh, we would really like to come back to North Richland Hills, to our partners. And we worked a deal to come here in this, at the time, this industrial park at the moment. And anyway, we built this building. So I was part of building this building in 1986 with Technol. The Technol made North Richland Hills the leader in face masks around the world. We were not only number one in the U.S. with a commanding market share of 87%, we were number one in England, we were number one in Japan, we were number one in France, we were number one in Germany. All that was here with North Richland Hills. I could go on and on. As the people that work with me, I get to start telling these stories. I love them. But one of the things that to me was amazing, the new products, the ideas, the things, the revolutionary products that came out of here. These are not just, let's just go make some ear loop masks. Right here, we designed, invented, and patented the first fluid-resistant mask in the world. Now think about that. The CDC now and the FDA requires every single mask that you bring out to be fluid resistant. None of them existed back then. Nothing. There wasn't one. So, and it's a long story how we did it. If we had about another 30 minutes, I'd tell you all about it. I'd be glad to do it over a cup of coffee sometime. A cool story. But about the time that we invented this product, we decided to make it very different. We made it orange, with safety orange. It had black underneath, like the Dallas Cowboys wear under their eyes, you know, when they're playing football. And we put a plastic shield on it. Well, now, you see those all the time. There's still that original product, by the way, because the only people we trademarked and copyrighted that color, the only people that can make it was the original Technol people, which then sold to Kimberly-Clark, and now is Halyard. All right? So every one of those products still the same ones we did. This is about the time that AIDS was becoming discovered here in the U.S. And I'll never forget going to the first trade show and had a video of our product. Now you have to remember at that moment, Technol is dead last in the mask business, okay, at that moment. Our competitors were Johnson & Johnson, 3M, okay? And I'll never forget talking to American Hospital Supply, and they said, you know, I don't think you should go after 3M because don't poke the big bear in the eye. And I remember looking at him and says, I'm too small to poke him in the eye. And I didn't tell him where I was going to poke him. But as it turns out, in this convention, the people in the medical industry knew more than we knew. When they saw these videos where we would splash the 3M mask, blood would go right through into a mannequin, just splash the J&J blood shot right through into the mannequin, splash the product we make here, nothing. People lined up like I always say, like in the women's bathroom at a rock concert, okay? They were out all the way through, unbelievable. We passed J&J the next year to become the #2 mask manufacturer in the U.S. The following year, we passed 3M. We were #1. And we kept going, just like I was saying. It was crazy. Till we finally dominated 87% market share. Well, in 1997, we sold our company to Kimberly-Clark. For a few years, they stayed here, and Kimberly-Clark's a great company. But big companies think differently than little companies. It's more about the cash. It's not so much about the partnerships. And, you know, they got shareholders. So Kimberly-Clark made the decision to do what a lot of other companies were doing, and that is move to where the labor was cheaper. Okay, so they shut these facilities down and they moved offshore, some to Mexico, some to China. But at that millisecond before this happened, you have to think about it, 87% market share right here in this one company, and there were other mask companies in. The mask supply in the U.S. was safe. We were okay. If we had a pandemic, we could get through it. But that really changed. At the turn of the century, and I always find it fun to say that, at the turn of the century, then things really changed. Not as a conspired effort, but just the way it happened. All the mask companies left America. Precept, the original one that was here, they left. American Hospital Supply had bought American Threshold, actually, and they left. and the big one, of course, which is Kimberly-Clark, they left. At the time, I was off with a non-compete with KC and could not be involved in the industry, and I stayed tight with that. But I looked at this and I go, you know, this is not okay for this country. This is a problem. And honestly, I saw it as a national security issue. And when I look back and tell these stories, people think it's, you know, I don't know, maybe made it up, I'm not sure, but it was true. So in 2005, even though I wasn't sure we could compete anymore because of China, then I started Prestige Ameritech again in a small building in Richland Hills. And the mission was very clear. It was to protect America's healthcare providers. We'd buy all American raw materials. We'd manufacture everything in the U.S. And here we go. So it was basically a fight against China. I was kind of naive, I guess to say the least, in that I thought when people found out, hey, we can get products in the U.S. again, they come running, the U.S. government can come start buying products from us. That really didn't happen. So we set out to warn the governments and the industry, hey, there's going to be a collapse in the mass supply. It's coming. There will be a pandemic, just as sure as I can sit here and say, unfortunately, folks, there's going to be another one. Okay? It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So I got what I call 2010 back again. We got big enough that we could come back to our home here with our partners. So once again, we partner with our city in North Richland Hills. We were able to get our old building back, and here we go. So there were some people and some groups that were forward thinking and that knew this was going to happen. And gosh, God bless them. You've got the Texas Health Resources people that are always been a great customer, and they support us. You have no idea. You got Cook Children's Hospital. You got MD Anderson Cancer Center, and I could go on and on and on and on about the people that back then, when they could buy a cheap Chinese product for 10 cents on the dollar, they're going, no, I don't think so. I think we want to get top quality, and we want to spend the money to protect our people. Unfortunately, the federal government, on the other hand, continued to buy foreign-made product, even for the Department of Defense, which always was irritating to me, but that's okay. Then we decided, it was actually Mike Bowen, my business partner's idea, nothing to do with me, we'd change the name of this building to the Pandemic Preparedness and Response Center. That really looked cool because we knew what it was, but our neighbors were a little nervous that we might have some kind of virus cooking thing. Or, I mean, what is that, right? So anyway, we fixed that and went back to just where we were. Then the big thing happened that we feared, but we knew it was coming. In December 2019, before the world as we know it, the U.S. was really thinking much about it, I heard of a potential new coronavirus in Wuhan. I immediately met with my business partner, Mike Bowen, and said, Mike, I'm worried this is the big one. I think this might be it. He agreed. So we sprung into action, and we started building machines. We started buying raw materials like 6 months in advance. When our raw material suppliers go, what are you guys doing? You go, what's up? And we go, we just want to get prepared. We want to get going. So we have everything going on. We also reached out to the White House. We reached out to the federal government and said, guys, this is real. Unfortunately, right then, nobody knew. You can look back and blame whoever you want to, right? But nobody really knew the truth of what was going on. And as you recall, initially, you got Dr. Fauci, you got the CDC saying, wash your hands and you'll be fine. That drove me crazy, okay? I've been thinking, wait a minute, no, it's a coronavirus. So washing your hands is important, but you gotta have masks. So once again, at that moment, there was no help coming to us. So we had to do it on our own. So normally I'd say we begged, borrowed, and steal, but I'm gonna stop by saying we begged and borrowed. We didn't steal. And crazy, the only face mask company in the United States was here in North Richland Hills. We were it. We were left alone to try to protect this country. We were tiny. Gosh, I don't remember, 70 or 80 people. It quickly grew to 300 and something, but it was unbelievable. So North Richland Hills became the epicenter of the battle against COVID. We were it. It was, like I say, it's a nightmare to me. Other countries, as we predicted, they stopped shipping masks, they stopped shipping N95s. And at the worst time, when the U.S. healthcare providers were having the most difficult time in their life, they're left to battle COVID wearing a scarf or some other kind of makeshift device. Then we have the law of unintended consequences. And I'll hurry. I know you got everybody probably fall asleep in a minute here, but not only were we actually prepared with the machines and materials, etc., but we couldn't get people. With the federal government stepping in and helping everybody they could, then a lot of people didn't want to work. So that was an issue. So the crazy thing happened. I get a phone call, and it says on the wireless caller number blocked. Okay, who's going to answer that, right? Nobody does. You're not going to answer somebody's blocking their number to you. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to answer this call. I answered the phone. Dan? Yes. Governor Greg Abbott. How you doing? And I go, well, Governor, good to hear from you. And he said, first I want to apologize. I did not even know you were in Texas. And I'm thinking, well, you're on the list of everyone else. And he said, is everything going good? And I go, well, not really. He go, what's wrong? I said, I can't get any people. And he said, well, how many people do you need? And I go, well, probably 120 would be nice if I could have them like in a couple of days. He goes, what kind of skills do they need? So I had a conversation with Governor Abbott. That was on a Thursday. Monday, platoons of National Guard show up. Crazy. So, side by side, they worked with us. We made millions and millions and millions and millions of products that went to the state of Texas. Okay, amazing. They stayed with us for a long time as we continued to help, continue to try to get other people here. And we eventually did, and they eventually went on their way. So the good news is, thanks to our partnership with Northwestern Hills, and thanks to Prestige and the things that we did, our customers were protected. 100% of our customers did not run out of product. Okay, and also we are able to help the city, our partners, by donating thousands of N95s to our first line providers and the fire department and the police department. And what a partnership. So eventually the urgency subsided. We're all faced with this new reality. And I'll say today, we didn't get a gold medal. We didn't get an award. We didn't get a certificate. But we got a new street. And we are very thankful, because there will be another pandemic. And when that comes, the trucks will roll, and we will be here to protect America again. Thank you.
Dan, thank you. And again, thanks for the effort of Prestige Ameritech. And you know, you can talk about the history, but the results are in what happened and how you stepped up to the plate. I know the city was involved with you. I know the PD was involved with you, and especially the FD. They were there, and we continue to work together, and thank you for that. And thank you for the history lesson. We need that. We need to keep hearing about what happened in the past so it doesn't happen in the future. Thank you again. The city's application required letters of recommendation from both our Council of Governments and the Economic Development District. I'd like to ask the Executive Director of the Council of Governments to come up and share a few words. Mike Eastland.
It is a pleasure to be here. Council of Governments covers 16 counties. It was created back in 1966 at a time when every city didn't touch each other. And it took a while to get used to the fact that we need to plan together, we need to learn how to cooperate together, and that a rising tide raises all ships. And I think this occasion today exemplifies exactly why there is a Council of Governments and why we decided to form an Economic Development District. Every city, and we have close to 200 in our 16 county area, are all my hometown. But there's some special people in North Richmond Hills, and the mayor being one of them, Seco being another, Commissioner Peckus, who have served on our board. Your mayor was the chairman or the president of our board at one time. So you've had great representation, and we have benefited from that representation, and really, really appreciate it. It was in 2016, the very end, that we determined that we needed to become an economic development district. We have areas within our 16 counties that really needed some help on getting projects accomplished. Not all of them had an innovative, creative, committed, exciting person like what you have here today with Dan and the company he has. And you're very fortunate to have a person like this that has spearheaded so much. And I remember reading about, we've got the facilities here, we just can't compete. And how that evolved into, as you say today, now you are again a leader, and how important that is. In order to be able to compete for an EDA grant, you have to do a comprehensive planning for economic development and have a strategy for that. And it needs to be looked at on a regional basis. And I'm going to introduce Lucille Johnson, but I went in, she office next door to me, and I said, Lucille, let's go ahead and let's create this economic development district. And Lucille was our utility person. She's now retired. I mean, she did everything, and she did everything well. She said, all right, let's go. I don't know if she fully realized what it meant to put together this SEDS, or Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, but she spent months and months, had meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and we got the plan approved by EDA. And that's what made eligible this project for the $1 million of funds that you got. Plus it just being a great project, it competed so very well. So Lucille, raise your hand back there. She was a huge part of all of this, and helped review the grant and made suggestions on how you might strengthen it, and it all paid off. And also Trip Patel, who has now taken over many of the duties, but certainly that economic development district duties, was Lucille's assistant, and as Lucille retired, she moved up to where she is today. I also want to recognize that Craig also is one of our board members, but we have our secretary from the city of Waxahachie, Cassandra Carroll, here with us today from the Economic Development District, and we appreciate that. It's not a totally easy drive to get here from Waxahachie, so I think what it demonstrates is the commitment. All the board members of the district really are committed to making this well. And you guys are familiar with the name Marty Weeder. Marty has served as our chair or president for all these years, and we've been lucky to have him. You've got a great staff. I've known Mark and Paulette forever. And I know the effort that it takes of them leading, but also working with a great staff to make this happen. I think the thing about this road is it's so neat to take notice of it today, because in 2 years it will always have been here, and people won't recognize what it took for this to occur, the cooperation, the involvement, the commitment. So it's a real privilege for us to be here to do this. I want to just introduce to you now the person who heads up the 5-state region for the Economic Development Administration, George Agaga. George is a native of, actually, you only know what 5 states: Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and then the great state of Texas are in his region. He's an Air Force veteran, an aerospace engineer. He worked on the development of F-16 and F-15 engines manufactured by Pratt & Whitney. And I was asking, how does your engineering background fit into what you're doing today? He said, man, it's hand in glove. It's just a part of who I am and how we go about doing business. And I'm losing part of my notes here. But I also want to recognize Stacy, his assistant, who's been introduced earlier. But Stacy, thank you for all the work that you've done. I won't go any farther. I think it's appropriate for George to come up. He's sort of the other star of the show, because were it not for him, this wouldn't have happened. Lucian, I'll get that. You don't have to take it down. So thank you guys, and congratulations again. George, thank you.
All right. Well, good morning. I was saying this is a Chamber of Commerce day. Like, where's the chamber? Is the chamber out here? They take pictures today, because this is the poster child for your great city. What a pleasure it is to be here with you and to hear the story. I enjoyed every bit of that. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for that history. You know, sometimes when things happen, like a pandemic, which none of us even knew what that was, it takes us all by surprise, and you know, we kind of have to figure out how we're going to deal with this. And so it's great to be here with you and talk about one of the things that EDA has done to hopefully help your community deal with that situation. As was said, my name is George Ayala. I'm the regional director for EDA. We are officed out of Austin, Texas, and we do cover 5 states. So I get to travel all around. I'm going to New Mexico right after this to be there with them tomorrow. And I had the privilege of growing up near Corpus Christi, so my favorite state, I tell everybody, it's whichever state I'm in at the time, but really it's Texas, so don't tell anybody. I have a very, very a big affection for Texas, and having grown up here. But you know, right after the pandemic hit, EDA was provided some additional funding, which the mayor, I think, spoke to, $1.5 billion, which was unprecedented. Normally our agency gets about $300 million a year. So quite an amount, because we'd never had a disaster like a pandemic before. And so Congress provided that funding, and everybody was eligible, which was because everybody's affected by the pandemic. You know, normally after a hurricane, we may get a supplemental, and those counties on the coast are eligible for that funding. Well, in this case, everybody was impacted by the pandemic. And so, as you can imagine, we started getting calls from everybody saying, hey, we'd like to see if we have a grant, can get a grant from EDA out of this funding. And my staff tells me, it was before Stacy even joined us, because she joined us right after the CARES funding came, that your city was one of the first that called and wanted to inquire about how this funding was going to work. And you know, as we look at disaster funding, which this is, one of the things that we try to do with those funds is help communities recover from the disaster, but also become more resilient for future disasters. And while the road coming in now, you may think, well, the pandemic's passed, but I really appreciate what was said. You know, that's probably not the last one, unfortunately. We all hope and pray it is the last, but you know, reality will set in, and perhaps we have another reason. So I can't think of a better way to exemplify what these funds should be used for, and that's to secure this employer and this company here through this grant to the city. So our grant is to the city, and their beneficiary is Prestige Ameritech. And so that's what justifies us doing the grant, because we are economic development. So we try to sustain jobs, we try to create new jobs, and apparently they're hiring. So if y'all need a job, come look them up. And so it's, you know, we don't go to communities and say, you know, do X, Y, and Z and we'll fund you. It's very, very different from that. Communities come to us and say, we have this idea of a project that we want to fund. Is it possible that, you know, it would be competitive, that we can partner with you? And like Mike was saying, we partner with all of our economic development districts. I have 59 of them in my 5 states. We're completely covered with funded economic development districts. And they're really an extension of our office. So when you're talking to them, it's almost like you're talking to us. And so I'm glad that this partnership was as strong as it was, and y'all were able to work with them. These are the kind of grants that we want to showcase and talk about, because, you know, I always say that the kinds of projects we want to fund are projects that are collaboration between communities and also are regional in scope. I can't think of a more, I mean, this is a national, you know. I love what you said. You didn't get a gold award, you didn't get a silver medal, but EDA came through and gave you an EDA grant. How's that? We'll accept the honor of providing some recognition for the great effort that you've done. And so we want you to stay here, and I know Northridge wants you to stay here, and you know, this is an opportunity to help that continue to be into the future. And so I am excited to see the road starting to be built. You can tell already, and to see the finished product. And you know, couldn't think of a nicer, more beautiful day to celebrate this event. You know, it's not what EDA did. It's not only what the city has done or even the company. It's all of us working together to make sure that our country continues to be strong, to be able to meet the challenges that are coming from all places all the time. And so it's my honor really to be here and represent EDA and just to acknowledge this great grant that we've been able to provide, and just really happy to be here with you. It's a great day to be in North Richland. So thank you so much.
Thank you, George, for coming out here. So he flew in, and he's going to fly out. So really appreciate your presence. Wonderful comments by everybody. I'd like to, before we end and do some photos, I'd like to recognize Nathan Froman, our city engineer. Nathan, where are you? He's the quarterback of this project. In fact, there's a whole slew of road construction going on around town. You can credit him for that, and you can blame him for that. So thank you, Nathan. Now I'd like to, we end this part, but I'd like the following folks to stick around, pretty much everybody. But the first, I'd really like City Council, Dan, Reese, Mike, and George. If you guys don't mind going behind here for some construction, we need to put you guys to work here. And then after that, I'd like City Council to remain, and for City Management, Mark, Paulette, Karen to get up. And after them, I'd like Mike and Pritt to come up, along with Lucille and members of our EDA and EDD to come up. So this first round is our City Council, Dan and George.